Hello, hard rockers and hip hoppers. It's Captain Freezknot, and welcome to another special edition of Captain's album collection. This is a stoner rock edition, or at least a classic rock hybrid slash stoner rock influences edition, because tonight's group is Deep Purple, and the album we're looking at is Machine Head, an album that I consider to be a very early version of a stoner rock album. And I think that most people widely consider an early version of a heavy metal album. Machine Head was English hard rock band Deep Purple's sixth studio album, recorded in December of 1971 in Montreux, Switzerland. Following several recording sessions between gigs for earlier albums, Deep Purple wanted to dedicate a serious amount of time this time toward recording an album in a way that wasn't the typical studio environment, so they could maybe capture a sound that closely represented what they sounded like live. So to do this, this was their idea. They hired the Rolling Stones mobile recording studio unit for recording and booked the Montreux Casino in Switzerland as a venue. The idea there was to record the album with the Rolling Stones mobile recording studio on location and then do a big show in the casino to capture a live performance for the live side of the double album. But during an infamous Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention show the night before the event would take place, something happened that would change the plan, inspire a song on the album with the most iconic and recognizable guitar riff in history starting it, and provide some of the most descriptive and incorrectly interpreted lyrics in a song ever. We'll get to that soon enough. First, let's just back up a bit. Deep Purple is an English hard rock band that formed in 1968. Many compare their sound with Sabbath and Zeppelin and tend to lump Purple in there with them and call them early heavy metal. It's widely considered that along with bands like Blue Cheer and Sabbath and Zeppelin, that they were the first really heavy bands, first bands that could even be qualified to be called heavy metal. And in my opinion, these bands ultimately gave birth to stoner rock. Deep Purple had early pop success with a hit song called Hush. And over the years, the band had changed lineups so many times. I mean, several band members and lineups throughout their albums that there's too many to mention all of them. But after some of after their first and second album, after their first couple albums, and after they put out records like In Rock, Burn, and Fireball, the Purple wanted to continue their hard rockin' descent into heavy rock music. Never ever losing that blues edge, though, always continuing to sound like blues, but and have a very strong keyboard bass. The band was expanding their songs. Their songs were getting longer. Their songs were having total arrangement changes and riff changes, and starting to create that sort of like going down the road in your car. Excellent road music, driving music, that sort of stoner rock in the desert as you're zooming through the desert, bouncing kind of rhythm and momentum starts with this band and this album, along with Sabbath, of course, creating that sound initially. The Deep Purple definitely puts their stamp on it and then extends the quality of that new kind of sound. Most bands' album recording sessions are not as explosive or epic or, crazy story-filled as Deep Purple's adventures during the making of Machine Head. They're quite infamous, if you know what I'm talking about. We will eventually get to the event that kind of changed the recording and the whole vibe of the record in a second, in a night, completely changed the plans and the way that Deep Purple was going to record this album. But let's just go ahead and play the first track here so you can kind of get a flavor of what this album sounds like if you've never heard it. Our first track up tonight is the first track on the album, and that's Highway Star. I'll tell you a little bit about how that came about and what that song means to people and what that song means to me after we listen to it. Here's the first track off Deep Purple's Machine Head. It's Highway Star, the ultimate road song. That's the first track off the album Machine Head by Deep Purple, Highway Star. You're listening to the Captain's album collection, Stoner Rock Edition. Classic rock slash stoner rock edition, kind of, right? Okay, cool. Let me give you the band lineup right now for this album, since it did change so many times, and since I consider this to probably be the closest to Purple perfection when it comes to the band lineup. On lead guitar, of course, is Richie Blackmore. Vocals and harmonica, Ian Gillan, who was the frontman for Black Sabbath for a couple records, just before or after the Dio debacle, I guess. Roger Glover playing bass. As usual, John Lord, as always, on keyboards and Hammond organ, creating that heavy organ and keyboard sound that's always in Deep Purple, thank God. And Ian Pace, who I figured is probably, if not the best drummer to ever be in Deep Purple, maybe close to one of the best rock drummers ever in general. The album's produced by Deep Purple with engineering by Martin Birch, who later became famous as Black Sabbath's producer, producing albums like Heaven and Hell during the Dio era. This song that we just heard, Highway Star, is the most played live by the group in concert. And like I said, it was written by the band and produced by the band because that's how they were doing things at the time. Highway Star was a tune that was conceived while they were on a coach traveling to their opening tour date in the UK in Portsmouth on the 13th of September in 1971. The band's management had arranged for them to travel to the gig with a group of music journalists who could interview the band at their leisure. One of the journalists asked Blackmore when they were on the road how he wrote songs. Upon which he said, like this, and he grabbed a guitar and started playing the song's opening riff over and over again. And then Ian Gillan improvised a set of lyrics over it, like, hey, we're on the road, we're a rock and roll band. And Deep Purple completed the arrangement and perfected the lyrics and the riff and everything during rehearsals, and it was added to the show that night of the gig. And then, of course, became the first track on Machine Head, Highway Star. Machine Head is Deep Purple's most commercially successful album, topping the charts in several countries. The album reached number one in the United Kingdom and stayed at the top 40 for 20 weeks, while reaching number 7 in the United States in August of 73 and remaining on the Billboard 200 for 118 weeks. Not too shabby. Our next track is the next song on the album. Even though I'm not going to play every song on the album, I'm going to hit these really important ones as far as I'm concerned. And the second song is a great, groovy, important song on the album. Maybe I'm a Leo went under the working title One Just Before Midnight for a while, and you can actually see that it's listed as that in a picture of a recording sheet on the album sleeve. The finished title and lyrics refer to Gillan's birth sign, and Glover wrote the song's main riff after listening to John Lennon's solo song, How Do You Sleep? And he enjoyed the riff not starting on the first beat of the bar. So it didn't start on the one, and he kind of dug that. Here's Maybe I'm a Leo, the second track off Deep Purple's Machine Head.
Round the door, I got a big surprise. Acting like a fool, I had to make her cry. Maybe I'm a Leo, but I ain't alive. I'm hurt oh so bad. I want her now.
That was Maybe I'm a Leo, the second track off of Machine Head by Deep Purple. You're listening to the Captain's album collection as we listen to Machine Head tonight, select tracks from this record that I consider to be a very important heavy rock, heavy metal, or stoner rock album. You decide which title fits it best. Now, next up is probably one of the most iconic, classic, most popular, most played. Everybody learns it as a opening riff or a basic riff when you're trying to learn how to play rock guitar or electric guitar. I am speaking, of course, of Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple, which documents the experience gone through for the recording of the album Machine Head, including the casino fire and evacuation that happened at the Grand Hotel during the jazz festival that they were trying to be a part of and trying to record part of and include on this double album. The last gig at the Montreal Casino was a matinee performance by Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention. At the time, the group included ex singers from the Turtles, Flo and Eddie, multi instrumentalist Ian Underwood, and a drummer Ansley Dunbar. During the show, a member of the audience fired a flare gun into the building's roof. The audience were largely unaware of the incident at first because the roof was covered by sort of a false bamboo ceiling through which you couldn't really see the initial fire. But about an hour into the set, people started seeing sparks and smoke emerging. The group stopped playing, and according to bassist Roger Glover of Deep Purple, Frank Zappa said, no one should panic, but fire. After this, the management ordered a controlled evacuation of the audience. There were no fatalities, thank goodness. But a group were briefly trapped in the casino's basement before they were able to be rescued. And shortly after everyone had been safely evacuated, the building completely went up in flames and burnt to the ground. Thick black smoke drifted away, which started to rest on the shore of Lake Geneva, and there you get your Smoke on the Water. Roger Glover recalls waking up one morning saying the title Smoke on the Water out loud. From this, Ian Gillan wrote the lyrics which describe the experience in the Montreux, and a photograph of the burning Montreux Casino was included in the album's gatefold cover. So now they couldn't record in the Grand Hotel, and they couldn't do their little concept of doing a live show for the festival and including it as a live half of their album. So this is where a lot of the Rolling Stones mobile recording unit came in. It was sitting outside in the snow, and once we got to the truck for a playback while recording the album, Even if we didn't think it was a perfect take, we'd go, yeah, that's good enough, because we couldn't stand being out in the cold again, or running back in there and having to do it again. This is a statement by Richie Blackmore. He remembers sitting with Ian Gillan, who also remembers that they were sitting in this bar restaurant about a quarter of a mile from the casino after it happened, and it was just blazing. The wind was coming down off the mountains and taking the smoke and flames across the lake. And that is the makeup of probably one of the most popular and classic rock songs ever. That is track 3 off of Machine Head by Deep Purple. It's Smoke on the Water. Deep Purple with Smoke on the Water, the third track on the album Machine Head. You're listening to the Captain's Album Collection, Stoner Rock Edition, or if you want to say Hard Rock Edition, Heavy Metal Edition, Classic Rock turns into all those things edition. Although the track we just heard, Smoke on the Water, is one of the most famous by Deep Purple and of rock music in general, the band didn't really think that the song had much commercial potential, and it was one of the last of the tracks from Machine Head to be played live. The song was subsequently a major chart hit in the US, reaching number 4 on the Billboard Hot 100. In addition to Deep Purple, Gillan has performed the song live as a part of his solo career and during his brief stint with Black Sabbath in 1983. The last two tracks I'm going to play for you on the album are the last two tracks on the album, skipping a couple in the middle there that are good tunes. You can check them out for yourself. Those songs are Pictures of Home and Never Before, but I considered the 5 that I'm playing you tonight, since I always do 5 songs on this show, to be the most important for the album. Highway Star, Maybe I'm a Leo, of course, Smoke on the Water, and the last 2, Lazy and Space Truckin'. Lazy was first played live during the 1971 UK tour and retained throughout the following year as a live jam. It was first performed towards the end of the live shows, replacing the instrumental workout Ring That Neck, and was later moved to a mid-set in the early 72. Glover said the song was roughly based on an Oscar Brown song called Sleepy from 1960, while Blackmore stated that it was Eric Clapton's Stepping Out that inspired him from 1966. The song was designed to be a vehicle for various instrumental showcases and solos during an unaccompanied organ introduction and Gillian's harmonica. Blackmore recorded the guitar solos in sections on 2 different days and then joined them together for the final track. And speaking of the final track, the last one we're going to listen to here tonight is Space Truckin', which is probably my favorite off the album. It was written as a sort of passe 1950s rock and roll lyric spoof using science fiction themes. Deep Purple sat around thinking of nonsense phrases such as music in our solar system that would fit this theme. And Ian Pace played a short drum solo on the track. It was the first played live in January of 72, immediately after recording this album, and led into 1973. Including a memorable performance of this song at the California Jam the following year, where Blackmore set fire to his amplifiers and destroyed a TV camera with his guitar. These are the last 2 tracks on the album Machine Head, and I want to say, as far as a final note on this album, I proudly played every song that I played for you here tonight on the radio when I used to be a DJ on KKLZ in Las Vegas. I'm very proud of that, because not all of the tracks I played for you tonight were big hits. Some of them were just considered, album cuts. And playing most of the songs or all the songs off Machine Head is definitely a rite of passage when it comes to being a classic rock DJ. Thanks for joining me here on Captain's Album Collection. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the last 2 tracks that we're going to showcase tonight from Machine Head, Deep Purple's Lazy and Space Truckin'.